The headlines. The Tino River hydropower project's commission date moved to 2028. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock and its partners celebrated World Food Day. And Prime Minister Jeremiah Manella says his recent trip to Indonesia is beneficial for Solomon Islands. Hello, you're watching SIBC's TV News Bulletin. I'm Andrea Maahanwa. The Tino River hydropower project's commission date has been moved to 2028 and will not be in 2024 as initial projections have indicated. Ministry of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification's Permanent Secretary, Dr. Christopher Vehe, confirmed this to SIBC News in an interview. Mr. Vehe says ensuring the project meets international safety standards and making sure there are no defects after its completion are some of the main reasons for the slow progress of the project.
With the intention of having a transformational project, the government is really cautious of the fact that the project has to fulfill all its required safeguard standards. So, you know, we are not naive of the complaints that are coming and the frustration even with the government of when this will happen. It doesn't happen this year, 2014, as projected, simply because of the requirements on the environmental social safeguards. These are international safeguards, and this is something that I wish to explicitly say that I'm proud. The government is able to host a project of that dynamism. It's if you ask every other hydro or hydro experts in the world, we've been meeting in some of the conferences. Looking at Tino Hydro, it has its unique challenges and its unique ways of how it's managed, and having to manage multi-facial donors is one other challenge. So what I'm saying is, yes, we don't commission the project this year, but I'm confident we are doing it early 2028. Now, one other thing that we need to know is we are using the project as something, as a flag for the nation to raise its level of priorities in meeting safeguard standards.
Tino River Hydropower Projects Director Pradeep Verma explains that the project consists of 4 major components. He says work carried out is on a major scale and cannot be fast-tracked.
The plant, the tunnel, the powerhouse, the switchyard, the quantity of cement that they're going to use is 4 million bags. 4 million bags of cement they're going to use on the project. So you can imagine, you know, the effort. You have to get the cement from abroad, transport it to site, and then there is a batching plant, there is a aggregate crushing plant, because you need a lot of aggregate, and they are all going to get fly ash from abroad because the dam is constructed from roller compacted design. It's not using any steel. It just uses aggregate, cement, and fly ash, and sand and all. And then the tunnel, we are using a tunnel boring machine, and which will be brought from abroad, and the tunnel is 3,200 meters long. So that is the plant. And then component 2 is the access roads. So access roads about 21 kilometers, starting from Black Post Road all the way to the core land, and then from the core land, the starting point, there is a road that goes to the powerhouse. And then from that point, there is another road that goes to the batching plant and to the dam sites. So component 2 is nearly 90% complete from an earthworks perspective. They have to do final, the top layer and all. They will do all that at the end, because during the construction period, a lot of the road will get damaged, but they keep repairing the road. But when they finish the project, they'll put the finishing touches at the end. That will be in 2027. The construction of the dam foundation will happen in June next year. The tunnel boring machine will be here in Honiara, March 2025, and the tunnel boring will start in June 2025, and the tunnel will be finished by, say, July or August 2026. The dam construction will happen in 2026 and 2027. That is when they will build the dam, pour all the concrete, and that's a 71.5 meter high dam, and the foundation is nearly 10 to 12 meters deep. And they also have an intake gate where the tunnel will go and end in the dam. That intake gate also they will be constructing uses a lot of conventional steel. They're putting a batching plant. They're using so much of concrete. They're putting a batching plant at the dam site. They're going to get a new batching plant at the dam site. So they need a batching plant for the powerhouse. They need a batching plant also for the dam site. So that is also going to happen this year, and they have to bring it here and assemble it. So we are very confident as the PSS that first quarter of 2028, at this stage it is 12th of February 2028, is the project commercial operation date. So the dam, all the infrastructure will be constructed by October 2027. Then there is 3 months of testing and commissioning. We want to make sure that all the 3 machines are working perfectly. And as we said, it should generate 78 gigawatt hours of energy on an annual basis. So all the reliability testing will be done. So that's a 3-month period. And I'll now come to component 3. Component 3 is the transmission line. So the dam is there generating electricity, but you need to bring the electricity to Lunga Power Station. And then there is the component 4, which is the project office. So the project office was created by the government of Solomon Islands. It is actually one of the requirements of all the concessional financing parties. There has to be an independent body, but we represent the government of Solomon Islands. And our job is to make sure that we get we want to hold a very good baby in the end, and the baby is Tino Hydro.
Mr. Verma adds, with their work in meeting international standards, the COVID-19 pandemic had also contributed to the project's slow progress following the international border closures across the globe.
The other cause of the delay is the COVID-19. If COVID-19 was not there, we won't have to it's not just the government of Solomon Islands shutting its borders, it was every government in the world was shutting the borders, and there was quarantine requirements. I personally did 7 quarantines. So 4 in hotels and 3 at home. So I know how painful it is. I've done 23 PCR testing, and they put it into your nose and through your throat, and it's very, very painful. So that is one reason for the delays. And in addition to, as the PS said, about the environment and the social safeguards plan, we have a big coal land where the plant is being developed. So it is very important that we conserve that land. So there is a conservation management plan for that land. So we are going to plant many trees in that area so that we offset for the trees that we have cut. Then in the upper catchment area also, we want to make sure that there is no illegal logging in the upper catchment area, because if you log in the upper catchment area, there's going to be a landslide. And if there is a landslide, that will defeat the purpose of the whole project. So we don't want landslides, we don't want illegal mining to happen. So, and the government has signed some MOUs between the different ministries.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock and its partners celebrated World Food Day in Honiara. Celebrated annually on the 16th of October, this year's event was delayed to the end of this month. Eliza Kukutu reports.
A 3-day event is underway to commemorate the World Food Day at the Fopa village in East Honiara. Hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock in partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, the event saw the participation of the ministry's stakeholders and students. Delivering his remarks at the opening ceremony, Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Derek Wasi, emphasized on the importance of the theme, Rights to Food for a Better Life and Better Future.
This year's theme, Right to Food for a Better Life and Better Future, challenges us to reflect on how we can ensure that everyone has access to nutritious and sufficient food. It also prompts us to consider our responsibility to protect our environment in the process. As we engage in the celebrations today, let's commit to fostering a future where food security is a reality for all, where sustainable practices are the norm, and where the right to food is upheld as a fundamental human right. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO for short, the World Bank funded project, Solomon Islands Agriculture and Rural Transformation, SIAT, and the Solomon Islands government for their generous financial support, which has made it possible for the ministry to host this year's World Food Day celebrations. Let us also, in the celebration, not lose sight of our hardworking farmers, fishermen, food workers, and agricultural exporters who are the backbone of our food systems. Their dedication feeds us, yet they often struggle to make ends meet. It is our responsibility to support fair trade practices and ensure that everyone in the food chain is treated with dignity and respect.
Meanwhile, a representative of FAO, Douglas Yee, assures that FAO will continue to work with Solomon Islands in ensuring everyone has the right to food.
The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO for short, is honored to stand beside you in this journey. We are working with the government agencies, local farmers, fishers, and communities to improve food production, enhance sustainable farming and fishing practices, and ensure that nutritious food reaches everyone. Whether it's through introducing climate-resilient crop varieties, or promoting sustainable fishing practices, or supporting nutrition programs for children and families, FAO is committed to fostering a food-secure Solomon Islands. Achieving the right to food requires more than just programs and policies. It requires partnership. And so, FAO is grateful to collaborate with the Solomon Islands government, the community organizations, regional partners, to share knowledge, mobilize resources, and support policies that will secure this right for everyone.
For SIBC TV, I'm Eliza Kukutu.
Prime Minister Jeremiah Manella says his recent trip to attend the inauguration of the new president of Indonesia, Prabowo Subianto, and his vice also comes with some benefits. He says they are looking forward to sign 2 memorandum of understandings that cover education and police cooperation.
With regards to the inauguration of the new Indonesian president, ladies and gentlemen, together with the Prime Ministers of Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, and several heads of states and heads of government, I participated at that inauguration, the inauguration of the 8th President of Indonesia, His Excellency Prabowo Subianto, on 20th October 2024. While it was an experience to participate in the ceremony itself, the benefits of the visit transpired in my bilateral meeting with the new president following the inauguration. His Excellency President Prabowo Subianto genuinely expressed his gratitude for my acceptance of his invitation to the inauguration, that is, for both the president and his vice president.
Honorable Manella adds that during his meeting with the new president, he acknowledged Indonesia's contribution towards the country's hosting of the 2023 Pacific Games.
I thank the president for Indonesia's contribution to the 2023 Pacific Games through the Friendship Hall and the Polyclinic that we hope to hand over to the Seventh-day Adventist Church before the end of 2024. I also acknowledged Indonesia's support through the provision of scholarships for our students and a small grant to the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. We have previously also signed a reciprocal visa agreement with Indonesia for diplomatic and official passport holders. We are ready to sign 2 memorandums of understanding, one on cooperation in education and the other on police cooperation. We are also jointly working on an air services agreement between Solomon Islands and Indonesia.
Solomon Islands food security is of importance to the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. Sharon Anau reports.
Solomon Islands food security is of importance to the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, despite the country not experiencing famine as in other countries around the globe. MAL Deputy Technical Director Michael Ho'ota told SIBC News in an interview. He said the COVID-19 pandemic has tested the country's food security levels.
Yes, I think program existing programs here will deal with food security. Both from national government and also with our donor partners. Yeah, I am true. Imi say that imi food secure. Yeah, but maybe the COVID-19 am bring a big test to him. Yeah, if I'm a little bit extend go more, we should have a crisis. Yeah, the food. So imi saya tell him that imi food secure, but the reality am no more. Yeah, so we'll encourage him. Yeah, their agriculture programs where deal with food security. Yeah, so that's one of the important functions of the ministry for food security as well as for economic development. So that's one of the key area where ministry am continuing for work.
Mr. Ho'ota adds MAL in its awareness programs is working to make the agriculture sector attractive to youths, seeing as the younger generation is losing interest in the farming field. This year's World Food Day celebration in the country saw the participation of various schools across Honiara.
I think Osimi Misabe youths na future blow no country. Some of the observations when we're looking farming have not become attractive to youths. Yeah? So I think this is part of trying to get youths back into be interested in agriculture. Ministry have to look at how na make them youths to become interesting agriculture interesting local. So there are programs and activities where me follow try for doing in such a way that them become more attractive to youth. Because in Misana, the future have youths. So if you may look good, yeah, food security and even economic development of agriculture have hands lot of youths. That's why emphasis him dana will try for get them youths to be active participants in this for our World Food Day.
I think first time to fall into secondary schools, yeah. So it's a World Food Day events. Small area as DST hem talem ministry hem look strongly into this time now. How will we make the agriculture sector hem attractive for our young people, yeah, for the future generations of our country. Yeah? So we will start within this World Food Day by inviting secondary schools so that our students, our youths become more aware that food is not a necessity alone, it's a right. And him karema him link directly to your well-being, to your education, to your future, everything. There's a lot of food him, a big role where food him play, law society.
Sharon Nanal, SIBC TV.
Landowners of the Tino River hydropower project are prioritized and included in the project's processes. Ministry of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification's Permanent Secretary, Dr. Christopher Vehe, says in an interview with SIBC News. He says the processes carried out elevates women and girls' recognition and landowning tribes in the project. This is to ensure land issues do not negatively impact the project.
I had to admit that there are potentially elements of maybe dissatisfaction still there, but the land issues are settled for Tina. It's one of those requirements as well that the core land has to be acquired before the project can start. So the acquisition process was taken through, it was all done, and so the identification of the 5 core land tribes were done back then. Now, one thing that I wish to appreciate in the process is, for Tina, it's as I've said, it's a model that would probably need to be reviewed, relooked at, and maybe further perfected into the future for the Solomon. But what happens in there is it really elevates the recognitions of women and children in the tribes.
The project's director, Pradeep Verma, says government has ensured that the land went through a land acquisition process. He adds they have a complaints mechanism in place to deal with any arising land issue.
The government of Solomon Islands has followed a very strict acquisition process through the Commissioner of Lands. Yes, there are certain people who have got grievances, and those grievances are actually noted down, and they could actually take, the legal system is there. They may have a case pending in the court. So I don't want to comment on that because that is all sub judice. So there could be cases that people have registered in the courts, and that is between the Commissioner of Lands and those communities. Yeah? But we have done. I think the project office, the government of Solomon Islands, has done the right thing. And as the PS has said, that this becomes like a role model for other large infrastructure projects in Solomon Islands. It has always been a very challenge to acquire land, but they went through the process. They went through the process to identify who are the tribes who actually own that land. And there was a duration in which people could make submissions. So all that they have gone through. They have established that they followed a very rigorous process, and they came up with those 5 tribes.
The Governor-General, Reverend David Tivakapu, has assured to fulfill his duties as the new Chief Scout. Elisa Kukutu reports.
The Governor-General, Reverend David Tivakapu, has assured to fulfill his duties as the new Chief Scout. Reverend Kapu was installed as the new Chief Scout of the Solomon Island Scouts Association in a ceremony on Friday. The ceremony coincided with the association's 3rd anniversary since becoming a member of the World Organization of the Scout Movement in 2021. Delivering his address, Governor-General Kapu said he understands the need to instill the values upheld by Scouts to communities in the country.
In marking our 3rd year since we joined the global family of Scouting in the World Organization of Scout Movement, I noted and believe we have a lot on the ground to continue from where my former colleagues have left. I accept the offer of Chief Scout because there are young people out there in our villages, communities, schools, churches and institutions that need to be reached in Solomon Islands and be trained in the important values that Scouting upholds. Principles and values to save our next generations. These values and principles are embedded in the Scout programs. These values are to do with their character building, leadership, governance, duty to God, duty to this country, duty to look after our families and communities. The formal education does not pay attention to these areas much these days.
Meanwhile, the former Governor-General and former Chief Scout, Reverend David Vunagi, calls for more support to be provided for the Scouts Association. He states that the Scout movement in the country can develop if support is provided for its office and volunteers.
We can have a good National Scout organization if we have a good office with modern equipment and facilities and staffed by dedicated men and women who serve tirelessly for the good of the Scout movement. That way, the Scout movement in Solomon Islands will grow, develop, become vibrant, and operate effectively. As an independent organization within Warsaw, what we do must be compatible with Warsaw standards and expectations. That calls for hard work and sacrificial service from all members of the Scout movement, and due recognition of such voluntary service must be rendered by the national government. So it is only right and proper that churches, wards, constituencies, and the national government support whatever project and plans the Scout movement strategizes to achieve. After all, the Scout movement attempts to address the needs of the young people of this nation.
For SIBC TV, I'm Eliza Kukutu.
Youth engagement is a valuable part of developing effective relocation plans in the country. The International Organization for Migration, IOM team, has facilitated inclusive consultations in 5 communities across several provinces in recent months. IOM's Solomon Islands Program Manager, Nathalie Hanley, explains the participation of youths is necessary as they will be most impacted by planned relocations in the future.
There are also focus group discussions just for youth so that they feel comfortable also sharing their opinions and their perspectives, because to be frank, youth are the ones who are going to be most impacted by climate change and by any future relocations, because relocation is also a long-term process. So it's not something that's going to happen in a couple of months. It's something that's going to be probably protracted, maybe even over a number of years. It's going to take a lot of planning to be carried out successfully. So young people are the ones who are going to be going through that experiences and living with the results of the decisions that are made. So it is very important to hear those voices and to enable them in an environment where they feel comfortable to share their opinions and their perspectives.
The team has faced challenges accessing remote communities, such as Sikayana, during community consultations. Ms. Hanley says the team will be departing to Sikayana next week.
There are sometimes challenges in access because some of these communities, they're very remote. So one of the communities we haven't consulted with yet, but the team will be heading out to next week, is Sikayana. And of course, this is somewhere that's so important to consult with, because these are the kinds of communities that are really living on the front lines of climate change impacts, that are possibly most likely to need to have these very clear institutional arrangements in place, but access is a challenge. Logistically, for a range of reasons, it's a little bit difficult. But otherwise we've had great support from government counterparts, from at the provincial level, at the national level, from community members themselves, to make sure that we can hear those voices that are so critical to hear and to shape these conversations.
The impacts of climate change are considered a major threat to the preservation of cultural heritage and identity. This was highlighted at the National Consultation on Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, for planned relocation in Honiara recently. Policy Secretary for the Productive Sector, Nixon Kuwa, explained that developing proactive SOPs will enable smooth relocation while preserving heritage.
As it symbolizes a crucial step in preparing our nation to withstand the gradual effects of climate change. Developing a comprehensive SOP to navigate the complex decisions and challenges ahead is of paramount importance. This proactive approach ensures our preparedness to facilitate safe relocations while preserving the dignity, identity, and the future of those who are affected. The responsibility we bear today is profound, as we are entrusted with the development of a framework that will resonate across generations. Our handling of this delicate matter will influence how future generations experience the impact of climate change and carry forward their tradition, culture, and connection to land and sea.
He adds climate-driven relocation must also protect the cultural heritage of those affected.
We must firmly recognize that relocation, particularly in response to climate change, is far more than a logistical or administrative task. It is a systematically linked to very essence of who we are as Solomon Islanders. Our land, our seas, and our way of lives are woven into a fabric that has endured for generations. Therefore, we must speak of relocation. We are addressing not just the movement of people from one place to another, but the preservation of community, the continuity of culture, the protection of livelihoods, in the face of increasing uncertain future.
And that's news. Follow us on sibconline.com.sb and our SIBC News Facebook page for more of our latest stories. Thanks for watching.